Apple Plus's new series, The Crowded Room, just dropped, and we just finished watching all 3 episodes that are available now. I'm definitely excited for it. What did you think so far? Like, just initial reaction? Like,
I'm going to tell you this. It's not often that I'm like really invested in something from the get-go.
Yeah.
And having watched the trailer, kind of knowing where it was going, like I was already from the minute the show kind of started, like breaking things down. I'm like, all right, who's who, what's what, blah, blah, blah. So I'm into this.
You messaged me, you're like, I'm only 10 minutes in and I'm loving it so far. And I'm like, I got into it and I checked when I was like invested and it was about 6 minutes in. So
you got to be better than me. I'm more invested in this than you are.
Exactly. No, but that just shows like good story writing right off the bat to pull you in, because there's so many times like I probably skipped over good movies or shows because they didn't pull me in those first minutes. And this one definitely did for me.
Not to get off topic, which we always do. It's like Game of Thrones. It took me 4 seasons to be interested in that show. And my wife was like, no, just keep watching.
Yeah.
I'm like, swear to God, is this gonna not get good? Because if it is, I'm gonna murder you.
If I need to invest 4 seasons into it before it gets good, I'm probably not getting there. But it stars Tom Holland, which is kind of nice because now you're seeing him outside of a Spider-Man role, which I know he's done other stuff besides that, but that's mostly where I know him from. He plays Danny Sullivan, and he's kind of in this interrogation room or like getting interviewed because of a crime that just happened that he got caught for. So essentially, he's helping out a friend who wants to scare this person that did some bad things to her in the past. And so he gets a gun and they drop you right into this, and they're on the train. They go there and they're like, nobody's going to get hurt. We're just going to scare him. And, you know, he busts out the gun, yells at the dude, and turns around and boom, freezes. And you don't know why at all. But then Ariana is yelling at him, shoot him. And this is like the point I'm all invested. I'm like, what is happening here? Is he going to do it? And then she snatches the gun away and just starts firing at him. So he's panicked. He didn't actually do anything besides hold up a dude with a gun. And then, of course, like the cops come and all that, and they put him in this interrogation room. He's getting interviewed or talked to by Amanda Seyfried. That's the actress. Her name's Raya, I think.
It's not Amanda Lynn.
Stupid. At least I got that one. It was an instrument reference right away. So. Yeah. So she's just doing this interview, and that's kind of, or like interrogation type thing. What is she? Is she like
I think she's a psychological like profiler or something like that, because they asked her to like help out with a case, right? They're like, can you help us out? You know, this is your wheelhouse. I feel like the writing is really good at layering these characters in and kind of like, how do I say this?
I definitely want to talk about like what we think is going to happen, because
we'll say that towards the end.
Yeah,
right?
The whole show isn't out yet. So, but I definitely want to hit on that because it's just going to be speculation at this point.
We'll put up a little spoiler alert before that happens. You can skip ahead if you don't want to see it.
Is there anything that I'm missing though in the plot of this story besides that he's getting interviewed right now, and then they're kind of jumping back into his life, high school life, I guess?
You see that he's got a troubled childhood. He's got a stepfather who's an a-hole. You know, he's got a real timid, submissive mom who doesn't really stand up for him as much as she should. He's getting picked on at school. You know, he doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. So he's got 2 friends. So he's got 2 more than you. But yeah, no, that's basically the premise.
So Amanda Seyfried, who's like interviewing him, I thought she was like an investigator trying to like figure out what was happening in that moment of the shooting that happened.
And her questioning is really well done. Like it's kind of building up to it, you know, along the way. And at the end of the 3rd episode, they're like, well, you tell me what you think is happening, kind of thing. And he's like, what do you want from me? Like,
yeah, it's based in 1979. And then when she's interviewing him, he goes back to like 1977 and talks about, you know, his childhood, like you mentioned, the abusive stepfather and all that. And like all these pieces like are kind of jumbled around in a way. It's like the story still flows in a chronological order, it seems like, telling you where he came from, but it's still like not clear yet on any of it.
Yeah, it's kind of hopping around between him and that girl and sometimes that Russian dude. And
one thing I did notice, though, right off the bat within the first like 6 minutes, like I was saying, is Danny and Ariana, they are going to go scare this guy, right? And then they turn around and face this Frank Sinatra poster, and there's a reflection in it. And the reflections, just like in Don't Worry, Darling, weren't all correct. Did you notice that? Like,
oh, I did not.
Yeah, so she gets nervous. They're outside. They turn around, and you can see, of course, Danny's face. And then you can also see the back of his head in the reflection, and there's multiple reflections happening of him. So I was like, oh man, is this hinting towards like a split personality thing that's going on, or multiple outcomes? I don't know. But they don't all react exactly the same either, from what I remember. But for some reason, I noticed that small little detail. I was questioning, like, why am I seeing the back of his head in this reflection? She walks off and he has like 5 different versions of himself still there, or different angles happening.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go take a look at that.
That definitely shaped my view on what was happening throughout this story because of that little detail I noticed.
Is that before, like right after the train?
Yeah, so right after the train, before they pull the gun.
Okay, yep. I'm gonna go back and look at that.
What about you? What's like your favorite thing? I know I just went off on a random tangent.
The writing / character development, the way they're layering all of this is, I think, really good.
Like you kind of mentioned, the whole storytelling and the flow of everything, and kind of how it feels like they're explaining things, but it's still a mystery. I don't know if that sounds really vague and weird, but that's kind of how the show is for me right now. It's because you think this is happening, but obviously this profiler is trying to pull some other information out of him, and it's almost like they're interrogating somebody that's committed multiple crimes already, and you're just like trying to get them to tell you everything that happened, but we've only seen one crime.
Yeah, like they're trying to trick him and coax out like more information, like, well, you know, where did all these other people go to? Like, he's like, are you saying I killed him, or like he killed him? Like, what are you hinting at?
If you ever saw Moon Knight, that whole Marvel series, it kind of reminds me of that as well, because Moon Knight has multiple personalities and he just kind of wakes up and doesn't know what happened another day, or he could have had days pass by. And I'm wondering if it's similar to that, but it might not.
Maybe he's just a drunk.
One thing I did have a hard time dealing with is we're watching a bunch of 27-year-olds play high schoolers. So it's a bunch of people that just look way too old to be in high school.
90210 thing, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, I get it. Tom Holland looked really young for Spider-Man, and they kind of played that off. But now I'm looking at him and like, man, you are way too old to be in high school. All of these people around you are way too old to be in high school. And then I think his character doesn't change enough between the couple of years that happen. Like his hair stays exactly the same. And I get it. A lot of us don't change our hair. But like for a movie, if you're going to go back into the past, like something to distinguish besides him wearing a backpack.
Yeah. Yeah. Give him some acne or something. Like,
a little bit of something. And his friend, the blonde magician friend, his personality to me just keeps changing so much. Like did that happen for you too?
Actually, now that you mention it, like I never really picked up on that, but yeah, because like his character does change a lot. Like
because he goes from this like weird like goofy like magician kid in school, he still does all his magic stuff, but then as soon as he talks about needing to get weed for the ounce of weed they wanted, all of a sudden he's like super pushy and kind of a dark character and and whatnot. And I was just thinking, man, his character had a huge shift in this moment, and
super like aggressive and like just beating up on dudes. So
I mean that was a well-deserved save there.
Yes, it certainly was. You take that best friend out for a milkshake because
Danny was going through some stuff to get himself a gun.
Yeah, that got dark.
That's one thing I do think they did a good job with, is they're jumping to these characters and they're like setting up the reason why you got to this one moment of gonna shoot this one guy. And so I think they did a good job even creating an episode for her and like building that story, but also like keeping Danny in the loop so it all still ties together. So I think that's been something, again, the writing. It was really well done for me.
Yeah.
And then the third episode jumps right in and, you know, they're talking about all the missing people. And I'm like, oh man, I'm even more invested like every single time. I'm like, is this going to prove what I think is happening is actually happening? I don't know. So with that, I would like to get into spoiler territory, or what we think might be spoiler territory, and talk about what do we think is happening.
Having watched the trailer and briefly read a synopsis that this is about the first person that pled split personality disorder, multiple personality, whatever the correct term is, I knew going into this, like, okay, there's clearly going to be a lot of psychological breakdown on these characters. So from the get-go, I'm thinking, okay, she's not real. She's part of his personalities. And then when they're at the party and those two dudes are there, I'm like, these guys aren't real either. A Russian guy isn't real. And I'm like, nobody is real except for his mom and the stepdad.
Yeah.
And the cops and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
So I'm getting hardcore like Fight Club vibes out of this movie or show. Ariana might be real, but I feel like she isn't. And if she is, she's like, what's the chick's name in Fight Club?
Marla.
Girlfriend. Yeah. She's giving off Marla vibes to me. She's like that bipolar, like craziness going on. So, but I think you're right. It's probably all of them are fake. And that's why the crime profiler is pushing so hard. And that's why he gets so confused about her questions.
They do a really good job of like keeping things vague enough, not giving away that he has split personality. You know, they're just like, oh, hey, look who it is. Instead of, you know, there you are. It's, you know, it could be two people there. It could be three people. It could just be the one person.
Now, we speculated on what we think is going to happen or what is happening, and you already read the synopsis and all that. But do you think there's going to be a twist on us? Like, we're led into believing that he has all these personalities?
I mean, that would be really good if they, like,
did it
make you think, because I don't know the case. I don't know if he actually had it or not. It's the real person that this is based off of. You know, maybe he just pled that he had split personality because he had heard about it. He's like, oh, this is a great defense. And,
is this actually based off like a real thing?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I didn't know it was based off a real thing. It seems so far out there that like...
Yeah, I read a brief synopsis and it said based on the case of the first person that pled, but I didn't really go beyond that. So I don't know if he had it or not. So maybe you're right. Maybe they're just building it up to think he has split personality, but in the end, it's just a defense. Because like his friends at these parties and stuff, like they would go wander off when he'd start talking to somebody else. They'd get quiet in the conversation. So I'm like, oh man, are they there or not? I feel like they're all made up.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm excited. So let's rate this. I think with our speculation that he might have multiple personalities, we don't know yet. How many personalities would you give this show? Like, as far as we're into it now, 3 episodes in.
I'm going to give this a solid 8 personalities.
Yeah, man. I think I'm in it with you, man. I'm going to give it 8.5. There's going to be a small little tiny personality on my shoulder or something. Just give it that extra little budge there. But no, I'm super invested into it. I want to see more. I love the writing of it all so far. And I definitely think everyone should go watch this. It's on Apple Plus. So until next time, peace.